The judge in Blake Lively's case just slapped down their psychopathic request.
And the court said no.
Breaking news, Justin Baldoni just got a big win, meaning Blake Lively got a big loss. Are her lawyers dumb?
Blake Lively is throwing a full-blown tantrum after the judge played the leaked audio in front of the entire courtroom. Well, that's exactly what she deserves. She and Ryan Reynolds tried everything to bury this recording.
They didn't record the show.
Even getting the podcast canceled. But now fate is siding with Justin Baldoni.
It is so clear Blake's case is falling apart. She's destroying her cred. Ryan Reynolds, too.
There's no way out. March 4th, 2025, the day the courtroom basically turned into a comedy special featuring Judge Louis Lyman absolutely annihilating Blake's legal team in real time. If she thought she was walking in there to flex her Hollywood power, she left getting legally body slammed into the ground.
I see a bully being, a bully attacking somebody. The bully being Blake Lively and her powerful lawyers. And thank goodness Justin's got support to be able to fight back this time.
And the best part? She had a full-blown meltdown right there in court. And even her own lawyers were visibly embarrassed because, at some point, even they must have realized this case is an absolute joke.
You don't want to believe that execs at the very tippity top are being essentially threatened or bullied or coerced or extorted and by a couple like Ryan and Blake or like Taylor Swift, right?
Blake and her team walked in acting like they were about to deliver the final blow to Baldoni's case, only for Judge Lyman to take one look at their absurd request and hit them with the legal equivalent of, "Are you dumb?" I mean, how embarrassing do you have to be for a federal judge to straight up roast you in open court?
Your lawyers are stupid. It's like he's like being nice here. He's like, your lawyers are really stupid.
But the humiliation doesn't stop there, because this legal disaster is now officially going public. Thanks to the judge's decision, there will be a live audio feed of the next hearing on Thursday. That means the world gets front row seats to Blake's legal stupidity in action.
Justin Baldoni universe, a judge is allowing the internet to join court. Not entirely for the whole court case, but for this Thursday, we'll be sharing live audio, not video, just audio of what goes down.
And honestly, I cannot wait. We all get to hear the exact moment Blake realizes she played herself. There will be no PR spin, no carefully curated TMZ leaks, just cold, hard reality blasting through the speakers. This is the level of humiliation she absolutely deserves. She thought she could waltz into court and demand the most ridiculous subpoenas in legal history. And instead, she got shut down in the most brutal way possible.
Blake Lively obtained all of these text messages through subpoena. Okay, what's subpoena? You can only issue a subpoena if you have an open legal case. So you have to have a valid legal case. I can't just issue a subpoena to, the New York Times.
Now, let's talk about just how insane Blake's demands were. Because it's almost impressive how far she took the delusion. Her lawyers had the audacity to demand 2.5 years worth of Baldoni's phone records, texts, location data, doctor visits, and who knows what else, as if she was auditioning for a role as a full-time stalker.
The judge in Blake Lively's case just slapped down their psychopathic request for 2.5 years worth of every message that Justin Baldoni and Justin Heath and the PR agents have ever sent to everybody, plus location data. We knew that was going to happen.
Imagine walking into court with a straight face and asking a judge for literal GPS tracking data on someone for over 2 years. Blake, what is this, the FBI? And the judge did not hold back. His response? You obviously cannot do that. That's it. That's how absurd her request was. Not a single legal justification, just pure nonsense. And Judge Lyman torched it immediately.
We have to distinguish between the two, what a standard court protective order is and what Blake Lively's team is asking for, which is an attorney's eyes only designation.
Because here's the thing. Even if Baldoni had been running a smear campaign, which, spoiler alert, he wasn't, it allegedly started in August 2024. So why on earth is she demanding records dating back to 2022? Someone explained that to me like I'm 5. It makes zero sense.
You are not able to hold a logical thought, but guess what? I, as a judge, I am able to hold a logical thought. So we're going to slap that down. You obviously cannot do that.
It's like suing someone for defamation in 2024, but demanding to know what they were texting their Uber driver in 2022. The math is not mathing, and even the judge was so over it. He straight up called her subpoena overly intrusive and disproportionate, which is just a fancy way of saying, are you actually okay? Blake wasn't asking for evidence. She was asking for a government surveillance program on Baldoni's entire existence.
So I can't just issue a subpoena to, the New York Times.
The judge saw right through it, and now, so will the public. Because remember, that live audio feed on Thursday is going to expose just how desperate and delusional Blake's case really is. And now we get to the best part, the absolute meltdown Blake had in court. Witnesses inside the courtroom said she physically tensed up, started whispering furiously to her legal team, and was visibly shaking as she realized her plan was crashing and burning in real time. And honestly, good. This entire case has been built on smoke and mirrors, and now those mirrors are shattering right in front of her.
But they weren't the first to do this. It was Blake Lively, it was Ryan Reynolds, this was their strategy, and now they kind of want to put the genie back in the bottle. But guess what? The genie does not want to go back in the bottle. The genie likes to be free, okay?
The judge's ruling was so brutal, so utterly humiliating, that Blake's legal team tried to spin it as a win in the media. I mean, how embarrassing do you have to be to get obliterated in court and still try to act like you won? It's like getting dunked on in basketball, face planting on the floor, and then standing up like, yeah, I totally meant to do that. No, you didn't. You lost. Spectacularly.
It just blows my mind how dumb Blake Lively's team is, and how just, I guess, egocentric, maniacal that she thinks that she can tell the world, you didn't see what you actually saw with your eyes. It's insane.
And here's where things get even worse for Blake. The moment of absolute soul-crushing humiliation, when the judge cited Blake's own lawsuit against her, proving that her request made no sense legally. She literally contradicted herself so badly that the judge used her own words against her. That's next-level self-owning. You cannot make this level of stupidity up. And where was Ryan Reynolds during all of this? Nowhere to be found. The man who loves tweeting, joking, and making viral moments suddenly turned into Casper the Friendly Ghost the second things got real.
Recent filing, we can now see that Ryan was panicked in general.
I guess he was too busy pretending to be Deadpool to show up for his wife's legal train wreck. He let Blake take the full public embarrassment on her own, and honestly, I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to be associated with this dumpster fire either.
I mean, is it not a little hypocritical? Is this a bad look of her if she's trying to tell the courts that we should stop talking about this in public?
But instead of admitting defeat, taking the L, and moving on with some dignity, Blake's team doubled down on the stupidity. Instead of fixing their case, presenting actual evidence, or acting like real lawyers, they immediately rushed to file more subpoenas, hoping that if they throw enough legal nonsense at the judge, something will stick.
Blake says she's so glad they did, but now she wants all other footage to not come forward. And we're supposed to be like, yeah, you go, girl.
Blake just learned the hard way that Hollywood power doesn't work in a courtroom. She thought she could intimidate her way to victory, but Judge Lyman treated her like a toddler throwing a tantrum in Walmart. And now, this legal circus is only going to get worse for her. Because after today's courtroom humiliation, there's no way out. The world is watching, the legal system isn't buying her nonsense, and her reputation is crumbling in real time. And this is just the beginning.
Are her lawyers dumb? Like, what's happening? Why do they keep making these mistakes and fumbling the ball like this?
Blake Lively wasn't just desperate in court. She went full-on Hollywood supervillain mode, demanding access to every single detail of Justin Baldoni's life. We're talking calls, texts, location data, work emails, literally anyone he's ever communicated with. She wanted his doctor visits too, like she was about to diagnose him with something herself. Who even asks for this? Blake thought she was running a top-secret FBI investigation, when in reality, she was just making a fool of herself in front of a federal judge. And let's be real, This wasn't even about getting justice. This was Blake flailing around, hoping to find dirt on Baldoni that doesn't exist. She was throwing subpoenas like confetti, demanding Wayfarer Studios' business records because apparently she needed to see what Baldoni was emailing his co-workers about 3 years ago. What's next, Blake? Demanding his Amazon order history?
You did that. You destroyed this man's life rather than wait.
Judge Lyman was having none of it. He took one look at her ridiculous request and called it overly broad and invasive, which, in legal terms, is a very polite way of saying, Blake, sit down. You sound insane. She was trying to turn the courtroom into an episode of Homeland, and the judge just hit her with a hard reality check. Even after modifying the request, it still got denied. The judge saw right through her desperation.
I mean, that first subpoena, as you pointed out we talked on our prior show, it was massively overbroad. It basically asked for everything under the sun, and it was crazy. And it was never going to get granted in full. So I'm surprised they didn't back off and try to do a little more tailored at the beginning.
And here's where it gets even funnier. The final ruling only allowed her to access 4 months of records. Not 2.5 years. Just 4 months. August-December 2024. Blake came in swinging for Baldoni's entire digital footprint, and she walked out with scraps. That's what happens when you try to abuse the legal system to play out your personal vendetta.
The judge makes a point of like, well, then why do you need 2 years worth? In her own suit, she alleges this campaign started in August. So why the reach for 2.5 years? Was nice to see the judge really sort of acknowledge that. This was the part I'm looking.
But oh, it gets worse. Because just when Blake thought she could control the narrative, the truth came crashing down on her head. A leaked recording from Ari Emanuel, CEO of WME, just exposed the biggest Hollywood cover-up of the year. Turns out Blake and Ryan Reynolds weren't just innocent bystanders in Baldoni's blacklisting. They were the ones who pushed for it.
This is the audio Blake and Ryan's agent seemingly didn't want you to hear.
I wonder if you could tell us about a little bit of a mess that I gather you've been involved in.
Oh, yeah. I know where you're going with this one.
Do you have notes on it?
Oh, yeah. Those are the 2 things I said to myself.
Ari Emanuel, the same guy who runs WME, the most powerful agency in Hollywood, was caught on tape admitting that he personally fired Baldoni because of Blake and Ryan's demands. Let that sink in. They didn't just sit back and watch it happen. They made it happen.
So he fired him. I'm a ride or die. That's why he did it. Because he basically said, okay, fine. Yeah, Ryan and Blake, I'm going to go with you. So you did that. You destroyed this man's life rather than wait.
And it gets even worse because Emanuel didn't even have the basic decency to refer to Baldoni by his real name. He called him Baloney. Imagine getting blacklisted by your own agent and then finding out he mocks you like a middle school bully behind your back.
Bad situation that Baldoni, whatever his name is doing. And his father.
It's an effed up situation. Whatever, Baldoni, whatever his name is doing. Whatever, he's your client. What a scumbag you are.
And now, Blake's entire victim narrative is dead. Because this isn't just speculation anymore. This is proof that she and Ryan Reynolds actively destroyed Baldoni's career. This isn't just Hollywood drama anymore. This is a textbook defamation case.
How is it possible that one individual can work behind the scenes to influence the minds, the hearts and minds of those with influence in the industry to potentially squash another individual such as a Justin Baldoni?
The worst part? The Freakonomics podcast, where Emanuel made this confession, conveniently lost their recording.
And then something odd happened. The podcast didn't get recorded. Neither the audio nor the YouTube video, both just miraculously didn't get recorded.
Oh, but luckily, a journalist in the room secretly recorded it anyway. What are the odds? Imagine being so deep in a cover-up that an entire podcast episode just vanishes. This legal disaster isn't over yet, but one thing is crystal clear. If Blake thought this was bad, she better brace herself.